Hey everyone, it's Julian. Today I'm going to be showing you about how to make Djoko style minimal deep tech. I've got a bunch of new techniques I'm going to be showing you in this video. And yeah, as usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 128 BPM, a little bit faster for house music, but it works really well with this more minimal stuff. And the first sound we have here is the kick, which is made of 2 layers, and it sounds like this. So this is basically this layer. Sort of our main kick. And then this layer, which is really just more of a top layer. You can see what's happening here is on the first one, I actually had experimented with using an EQ3 on this one, but we didn't end up using it. On the first one, we actually just have the full kick playing out. And then on the second one, I'm using EQ3 here to get just the mids and highs. So it's a really easy way to kind of create like a nice punch layer on top of your kick. And just make it feel like you're a lot harder hitting, as you can hear. The one thing that you'll notice I put a lot of attention to detail with here is, you can see if we zoom way in, I've really taken my time lining up the transients on these kicks. That's something you really need to make sure of when you're doing this kind of layering, is that, you see how this by default is like that, and then this is like this? You notice not quite the same level of punch when I set those back to the default. You can hear that right away. There's a big level of punch that is missing when these aren't perfectly lined up. So that's the only thing you need to keep in mind if you're going to do this kind of layering. Just make sure that you line up those kick transients perfectly. And yeah, then we have the bass. So the idea with this bass line is that it's following a chord progression, which you typically wouldn't have with this style of a track. Typically, with this style of music, it's a lot more about the rhythm than it is about the melody and the chord progression and stuff like that. But that's where a lot of these tracks kind of mix it up a little bit. So this is actually a really simple progression. We're doing D minor, C major, A minor, and then A sharp minor. So if we're in the key, or A sharp major, excuse me. So if we're in the key of D minor, it would be like our root note, our minor 7th, our 5th, and then our 6th. And it's really simple, but then this is going to create a nice foundation for all this other stuff. If we take away this bass line, not having that chord progression underneath all of that makes it completely different. So yeah, that's important there. And I recommend writing something that can be resolved within 2 bars. That's what I think really makes these, is they're these kind of more complex, jazzy, almost poppy, also chord progressions. But then again, it's happening over the course of 2 bars, so it's a very quick progression. Now for the sound here, this one's made with 2 layers. So what we're doing is we're actually layering a live electric bass here with this sub made with operators. So for the sub, what it is it's a saw wave, a square wave, and then a sine wave and a triangle wave. Just going into a low pass. Here's without that. So that's how you get that nice deep sub. And then I just have this being sidechained to the kick. And then for the live bass, it's just being sidechained. I have a bit of a high pass filter. And then also I converted it to mono. And that is it for the bass. Then we have these pads. So what this is it's 2 layers, but they're kind of working together to create this one sound here. Just this nice kind of ethereal background kind of pad here. So it's this first one just playing D minor, and then that just You can see it's a really basic D minor chord, just root note, minor third, fifth, and then we also have this one underneath it. So it's all about that call and response. You can see though, the actual layers are really simple to make. Like this one, it's the same chord as that last one. But now this one's just going dun-dun. So sometimes it's not always about creating one perfect synth patch. A lot of times, like, if you can make two kind of fit together like this, you know, that can kind of create the atmosphere that you're looking for here. So for the first one, it's a pretty simple sound. It's just made with the operator. You can see it's really just these two sine waves. And then you can see the second one is up to 3 on the chorus pitch. And then I have a low pass filter on that, which has an envelope. So that's how you're getting that, like, and then also there's a short envelope on the first oscillator, so it kind of fades down. There's also this chord here, which just doubles it up. So now there's the original note playing that I programmed, but also that same thing an octave up. Then we just have a bit of chorus, a bit of reverb, some drum bus to fatten it up a little bit and kind of bring out the reverb. Then we just have a high pass filter, and then a compressor side chaining this to the kick. And then on the second one, it's actually pretty similar in terms of the processing, but for the actual sound, this is made with this cheap electronic piano sound. And what I've done here is I've just really brought it in, and I shortened it a little bit. And then we have it going through some chorus and some echo and reverb. Like I said, with that last one, a bit of drum bus, high pass filter, and then just a compressor side chaining that to the kick. And yeah, again, you can see those are really simple. There's also a bit of a high pass filter on the group. And then the last secret here is the low pass filter. So obviously when you have these, you know, to make them kind of fit together, you need to do something. Like you gotta put some kind of color on them together that is going to make them fit into the same group. And that's what this low pass filter does. If I turn it off, it actually might get a little bit loud. You can see they're actually a lot brighter without it, and then when we turn that on, that's kind of the secret there. So now they kind of fit into the same place because they're being low pass together. But now it makes it just kind of sound like one element. Then we have the hi-hats. Which, as you can hear, there's quite a bit of detail going on with the hi-hats. So right off the bat, our main hi-hat is 2 layers. This one, and this little like shaker underneath it, which just adds some punch. Then we have like a nice tambourine, which you can see I shaped that a little bit. That's got some attack on it. And then we also have a shaker, kind of doubling that up. And then for kind of like some extra background layers, we have this one. And then this one. And so this is the full scope of all the stuff you're going to have, essentially, to make this track work. So that's something you want to keep in mind, because like I think, oh, and there's even like that. You know, a lot of times, like, it can be easy to just hear like this, like, you know, you think it's just these 2 layers. And while that might be a lot of what you are hearing, you know, once we add in all these, you can see that the background layers are just as important as the main layers. So you really want to make sure that you have enough stuff. So I recommend you start with like the main one, like, you know, get this sounding really good. Then you go and add like more of a like background, but still kind of like main hi-hats. And then that's when you can go in and add all these little like 16th note hi-hats. Then we have the clap. Pretty straightforward. You can see all this percussion is really clean too. We're not really doing too much processing. It's really just about getting like good percussion to start with and then letting that shine. Then we have these percussions as well. Just kind of like all the little background ones. You can hear, you know, pretty subtle, but there's always something going there. So it's always gonna be at least some energy being added to the track from those. Then we have the synth stab. So what's happening here is it's playing this little 2-bar pattern where it's just playing D minor. That's all it is, just the D minor chord. I've already shown you this voicing as well, where it's just the root note, minor third, and then the fifth. And what really makes this one interesting is it's a combination between the programming and the actual like sound that's being made, because we're playing this on 16th notes. And then you can kind of hear like it has that whoop happening there, kind of almost bouncing off of the 16th notes. So for the sound here, it's made with wavetable, which I very rarely use for stabs in the style of track, but I think it works really well for making something like this. So what we're doing here is we have a saw wave and a square wave. On both of these we have some pulse width and some sync. You can see, yeah, that just kind of allows you to add some flavor to the sounds, you know. I think of the pulse width and the sync as kind of like the texture, like, you know, kind of the way that you add character to your saw waves and square waves. And then that's going into a low pass filter, which, yeah, is set like that. You can see there's a bit of automation on that as well, you know, keeping it really dynamic. And then we have, on the filter frequency, the amp envelope, as well as an LFO. So that's what's creating that sound, because you have the pluck from the amp envelope. You know that you hear right at the start of the sound, and then the whoop, how that opens up. That's all the LFO. So like just being able to combine the envelope and the LFO, but also like knowing that if you just put the LFO on there and then play it on say like an 8th note or a 16th note, that something interesting will come from that. Because you can hear it kind of like glides over top of this really nicely. And yeah, then that's just going through a bit of chorus and reverb, as well as some echo. And then I have a drum bus to fatten it up a little bit. And then just a high pass filter. And that's it for that synth stab. And then we have these two stabs. Which I'm playing those with that last one, because you can see these really kind of do the call and response, or I should say the response to that first synth stab that I just showed you, where basically you have that one playing in here, and then each bar you get the first one right there, and then the second one there. So it's kind of like this one plays, and then you get this one. This one plays, and then you get the second one. First it's just having like all of it play at once, you know? Kind of making these like respond to each other and play off of each other creates a really nice groove here now. And those are really simple too. They're just audio, there's no processing. It's really about finding a sound that just has a lot of nice character to it that you like, and then bringing that into the track, you know, and kind of getting the benefits from that, versus finding a sound and then trying to go and put a million different effects on it. Like, you know, you can get a lot of character from these sampled stabs like this. And it's better to let that shine than to try and just add a bunch of stuff on top of those to make them something more. Then we have these last two synths down here. Which, as you can hear, are actually very ethereal, very kind of like atmospheric. And these are something that's a bit unique for this style. I don't hear these in every single producer's tracks, but you can really hear a difference. Like if I turn these off, yeah, and then when I turn them on, it just really adds something nice, and it makes your track a lot more atmospheric and just a lot more alive. So for the first one here, the ARP, it's really just walking up a D minor, or an A minor scale actually, excuse me. You can see, Like we have A, C, D. But then the secret here is that this is actually really a D minor scale. It just starts on A. Because you can see what's happening is like we have, so like it starts on A, but you can see we have D, the root note, E, which would be the ninth, F, which would be the minor third, G, which is the fourth, A is the fifth, and then A, another fifth essentially, minor seventh, and then back to D. So it's actually a D minor scale, but then by starting it on A, it kind of creates some contrast there. Like if we play this with the pad, so that's the idea. It's like kind of like a fake A minor. And then for the actual sound, it's a pretty simple operator patch. It's just two sine waves here. The first one is an octave up and it's a lot more plucky. And then those are going into a low pass filter with an envelope. And that's what's creating that like pluckiness. And then we just have some reverb, a bit of echo as well, doing dotted eighth notes. And then just a compressor sidechaining into the kick and a high pass filter, because you want to make sure that this doesn't take up too much space in the mix. And then the last sound here is this kalimba, which this one's really simple. It's only 3 notes. It's just the root note, the minor third, and then the ninth. But if I play that with a bass line, you can hear it kind of just adds a cool. You know, it's a really good melody over top of that bass line. And I actually have some secret root notes to this too that I was playing with here. So yeah, you know, you can do a lot with this, like pretty much anything that works with it. That MIDI is still there actually. If you grab this project file, you can still turn those notes on. You just highlight them and then press 0. But yeah, just like having some extra little background notes like this, I think can really, again, you can hear add a lot to your track. And it's a simple melody, but it kind of brings in a more like jazzy influence as well, which is what this style of stuff is all about. So for the sound on this one, it's just this kalimba sample, and then I've got a bit of reverb, a bit of echo, a compressor sidechaining to the cake, and then a high pass filter. You know, this one's really more just about letting the sound shine. And yeah, so that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Thank you to everybody who goes and grabs the sample pack. You know, every sale really helps keep me going, so I can keep bringing you guys new videos every single day. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.